So while you're centering for a plate, you don't want to go low and wide until you get the wobble out of your clay. One of the things we were talking about is the videos where people will like really make it tall and skinny.
Yeah.
And in actuality, this is a good time to do this because I did not do a great job wedging, and I can feel like hardened soft spots in my clay. And I do something, I call that move a peel, but my claw is keeping the mushroom from getting too big, and it's sort of pushing it into the side. But this is sort of like on the wheel wedging, and I'm gonna keep going until I see this piece of clay up here behave the way I want it to behave. All right, so I'm gonna kind of call that centered, you know, like that's where we would want to be, you know, wobble-free chunk of clay. And now we're going for a plate, so I'm gonna keep going down until I have it about 2 inches, and I've run out of water. I want to use lots of water for this move. And it's now, I've been going down, but the whole time I've been taking care of this edge, right? With this hand here. I've been making sure I stay connected to the wheel head the whole time I'm going down until I'm about 1.5 inches tall. And now I'm going to worry about flattening out the top surface here. And we talked a little bit about angle of incidence this morning. This is going to be scraping, this is going to be letting the clay slide past my hand, right? So I want the clay to be able to slide past my action point.
So it's more like on your palm.
Well, it's still here, but it's
a different angle.
Different angle instead of being straight up. It's, you know, and I'm going to like dig in with my knuckle a little bit and then roll this out, and I'm squeezing my sponge to add water to this.
Just getting it flatter.
I'm just getting it flatter. Now, if I was making a set of plates and I had weighed out all my clay, I'd be pressing it down and then measuring with my hand, right?
Yeah.
And then I'll know, like when it gets to the right width, I'll be the right thickness, right? And that's a little bit thicker than what I want. I'm usually like 1 inch wider than my hand when I have 3.5 pounds of clay out to the width that I want for a dinner plate, right? But this relationship between the weight and the width is something that you can learn if you weigh out your clay when you make your pieces, right? You can make a smaller plate,
sure,
with less clay, but still using your hands as a measuring tool is the way to go.
So you're pulling a different direction than you usually pull. You're pulling at like 7 o'clock.
Yes,
6 o'clock.
5:30.
Oh, okay.
4:50. 4:20. Exactly. Right. So now we're out the right width, right, for this amount of clay, and sure enough, we are the right thickness. So this is pretty thick, right? But I want to save enough thickness so that I can smooth out my bottom with a rib and lose some of my thickness while I'm flattening out my bottom. So I'm going to now...
You're just getting rid of the slag right now.
Well, I'm actually flattening the bottom, you know, and getting it so that it's compressed as well. And again, angle of attack. This is leaned over like this, not up vertical like this, right? This is going to scrape clay off. This is going to press clay down, right? And we want to be pressing the clay down. Notice I'm leaving a section here because I put a big flange on my plates. But right now, my goal is to get the surface that my knife and fork are going to be sliding on as consistent as I can. Sometimes I will finish off, you know, with a finger so it looks less machined, right? It's got those little rings on it. All depends on what kind of finish you want for the bottom. Then we are going to do, you know how I say when you were doing our gather, we don't want to scoop from the outside in. Well, in this case, I do want to scoop. I'm going to like use this finger here. I'm going to slide underneath this chunk of clay, and I'm going to make my step number 4. Remember the steps of throwing bliss. we now have our bottom opened as wide as we want, and we're getting our walls ready for pulling. And now I'm going to pull these walls to the thickness that I want. I got some squirrely clay here, doing some funny stuff. Now, if I had a little more clay, this could be a nice dog dish right now. But this is about as thin as I want to go for my walls. So now I'm going to take my wooden knife and I'm going to cut off my skirt. And we're going to drive this down through that chunk of clay. And then scoop it away. If I ding the sides when I do that, you can always clean up your sides afterwards, right? Pretty important to get that chunk of clay on a plate, because we end up leaving a lot of clay on our plates. You know, if the bottom thickness is a big diameter, that ends up being a big chunk of clay. So now we're going to decide, kind of sloppy in there. We're going to decide on how deep we want our plate to be. So I'm going to flare this out the same way I would for a bowl and decide on the depth of my plate before I get this horizontal, right? Because I'm going to push this almost horizontal, but I'm going to decide, you know, how deep do I want it. I'm going to go a little bit shallower than this and go down to here. And then it's a matter of pulling this down or pressing that down to where I want it, and then we're gonna get a wet leather. And I'm not a big fan of this slip here. Scoop that out of there. Almost no force on my tool to scoop that slip out. Maybe.
Now, do you cut it now with the wire with the wire cutter?
Yes, I do want to cut it before it gets much drier.
Okay.
I might, and in fact,
Score it or something?
I might use the wedging table wire actually, after it's been in front of the fan for a little bit. But I want to just reset some of this stuff here. I don't like this curve here. I'm going to do something like that. Look at that. Goobers all over the place. So I guess maybe for plates, I do like throwing with water as opposed to slip. Because that slip was getting in my way a lot. You know, like for bowl and such, you know, I do so much shaping with a rib, it doesn't bother me that much, but I seem to like it. I seem to like it better when it's not as slippy. But that would be my plate. I'm going to put it in front of the fan for maybe 10 minutes, and then I'm going to run it with the wire.